The truth the girls. The truth the girls.
Hi everyone. Your government is obviously trying to strip you of your rights, and if they can't do it one way, they'll find another way to do it. New bill known as Ennemy Expatriation Act would allow government to strip citizenship without conviction. Remember the NDAA 2012 bill that Obama signed that would give the American government to indefinitely detain American citizens or send them to other countries where they could be tortured or whatever without trial or due process? Well, that was very unpopular with the public. But they've got to find a way to strip you of your constitutional rights, because the Constitution protects you from things like, tyranny. And there's nothing tyrants hate more than having something get in the way of them being tyrannical. So the clever devils came up with this H.R. 3166 Ennemy Expatriation Act to add engaging in or supporting hostilities against the United States to the list of acts for which United States nationals would lose their nationality. But you'd think that they would already have laws in place for something like that, for an American fighting in another country's army against America. I'm pretty sure that they already have that covered. This is just a clever way for them to label people terrorists so they can strip them of their citizenship so they can do whatever they want with them. So now you can lose your nationality if this goes through for engaging in or purposefully and materially supporting hostilities against the United States. Like if you went and trained with Al-Qaeda or something. Or if you financially supported Al-Qaeda, like the NDAA 2012 said. But what if your Uncle Abu lives in Pakistan and you sent him some money for groceries, and then it turns out that he's in Al-Qaeda? Then maybe you could get stripped of your nationality. Maybe you could end up in Guantanamo. Anyway, this doesn't make any sense to me, because why now? I mean, like I said, they must have laws in place already, against doing things like fighting against your own country's military. There has to be some kind of law against that in place. So why would they have to suddenly add this? Maybe because it's part of a larger agenda. It looks to me like the American government is trying to do everything to strip people of constitutional rights. Bush Jr. was very open about that when he said the Constitution was just a piece of paper. A real nuisance, that piece of paper. A lot of people are worried that the next step will be that they're going to do things like designate protesters as terrorists and then strip them of their nationality. I don't think we're there yet, but the way things are going, probably eventually that'll be the case. In Canada, it's just as bad. We have something here called security certificates. People think of Canada as like this nice, peace-loving country that respects human rights, but the security certificates are a strange thing, because what they do is, this applies to permanent residents or refugees and things like that, not Canadian citizens. But what they can do to those people, if they're accused of something that seriously threatens national security, like supposedly terrorism, they can detain them indefinitely without due process and without any charges being laid. So basically what the Americans want to do, what they do to people in Guantanamo, and what they want to now be able to do to Americans, and what they would do to you probably after having removed your citizenship, we do that here in Canada. Here's one of the people who's been subjected to a security certificate. His name is Mohammed Harkat, and this website was made by his wife, Sophie Harkat. Mohammed has been under this security certificate for 9 years. 9 years of hell, basically, not just for him, but for his whole family. He was incarcerated, and then he was put under house arrest with an electronic ankle bracelet. But it wasn't just that. The whole family was under surveillance, video cameras in the house. He wasn't allowed to go anywhere without being accompanied by a delegated person, who I think was his wife most of the time. And then when he was out, he wasn't allowed to speak to anyone unless it had been pre-approved. So it just made things extremely complicated for him and his entire family. I mean, really, like, they could have absolutely no life. Anyone who came into the house had to be pre-approved and fingerprinted and all that, including, at one point, one of his relatives who was a newborn baby. So now he's no longer under house arrest, but he's still not allowed to leave Ottawa, and he has a bracelet on his foot. And if you want to know more about security certificates, you should have a look at their website. And one of the big problems with this is that the evidence is kept secret, and they say it's, for national security. But I think it's more like if the evidence was made, available to the defendant, his defense team, if he even has a team, he has somebody who's appointed to him who does him no good, actually, that's all they get. But if it was made available to the public or to them, it would probably show that there was really no reason for him to be detained at all. Like, for example, the evidence in quotes, right, because it's not evidence at all, that's used to take these people and put them under security certificates is often evidence that was obtained from people who were being tortured. So somebody who's being, waterboarded down in Guantanamo yells out a name, and based on that, they come to that guy's door and then haul him off. And then they just spend like 9 or 10 years or whatever trying to cover their butts for the fact that they've totally violated somebody's human rights for absolutely nothing. And their excuse that they can't reveal any of the information in the file, such as why they're doing this, that's because of national security, that's a crock. This is like a real shame on Canada that we're doing this. I just want to let you know about this, because if you think it's bad what's happening there, this is what we're doing right here in Canada. And yeah, they're not Canadian citizens, but so what? And they're pretty much always Muslims, or most of the time, because of this whole war on terror and all this, anti-Muslim sentiment and paranoia. So we're all sort of heading in the same direction. And can you imagine where this is going to lead? You combine something like security certificates, or what they do in the States, sending people to Guantanamo, with stripping people of their citizenship. And down the road, it could be Canadians or Americans stripped of their citizenship for whatever, because the war on terror, terrorism and all that, it's so vague. It could be anything, and end up like that, in indefinite detention with no access to due process. So I just wanted to share this information with you, and if you can offer your support to Sophie and Mohammed, they'd really appreciate it. And yeah, this is just a bit of a wake-up call. So thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time. What is IRAD?
It's a way to report suspicious behavior.
Or activity that relates to terrorism.
Whatever that means.
Terrorism is a sin. It's our shared responsibility to keep America under surveillance. That's why IRAD.